On this episode of the Naturist Living Show, Ethical Naturists and a Naturist Pioneer.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show is brought to you by Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. At Bear Oaks, we offer traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Free your body, free your mind. www.bearoaks.ca.
Welcome to episode number 30 of the Naturist Living Show. My name is Stéphane Deschênes. I'm your host for this show, and I'm the owner of Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. And today we're talking, we have two topics, and we have a very interesting interview with a naturist pioneer who's been there since the beginning and has collected an awful lot of information about that. But first, I want to talk about a new term. I want to talk about ethical naturism. This is a term that I want to create, introduce, to coin, as they say, because of the debate over naturism versus nudism. And if you heard episode number 3 way back in December 2008, that's when we discussed the difference between naturist and nudist. And really the difference is it depends where you are. The definitions can be the same for both terms depending on your cultural background and which part of the world you're in. So I don't like to judge. I don't like to call somebody nudists and mean it as an insult, as they do sometimes in Europe. And I personally prefer naturist because, as I've said many times in the show, it's not actually about nudity. Naturism is about respect for self, respect for others, and getting closer to the environment. Nudity is a very, very important tool, which is why we're not clothing optional at Bear Oaks. But it's not about being nude. So the term nudism or nudist makes it sound like it's all about nudity. And there's a little bit too much emphasis, in my opinion, on that in the term as a result, and it might mislead people. But having said that, I don't judge people who call themselves nudists. However, whether it's a nudist or a naturist, I've discovered there is a difference. And the difference is the ethical naturist versus the recreational naturist. So I'm going to keep saying naturist, but you can insert the word nudist if you want, because that same differentiation exists within the term nudists. So the recreational naturist or nudist, for them, it's just a recreational activity, nothing more. It's comfortable. It's like skinny dipping. There's no thought particularly behind it. It's a substitute to a bathing suit, because really a bathing suit, as we know, is a useless piece of clothing. It doesn't keep you warm, it doesn't keep you dry, doesn't protect you from anything, and doesn't really hide much anyway. So the recreational naturist sees the uselessness of that piece of textile and recognizes it's not necessary. They enjoy being nude, and everybody does. It's a great feeling of freedom, especially once you get over that emotional guilt trip that's been laid on you since you were born that it's bad to be nude, and of course it isn't. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be recreational naturist. It just tends to be somebody who hasn't thought much more beyond that. So they tend to be clothed everywhere else. They don't really think about naturism as a philosophy, and they don't think about it outside of their club or the beach that they attend. The recreational naturist has no principles really associated with the activity other than it's wrong to wear a bathing suit or it's uncomfortable. The extreme recreational naturist, and I say extreme because I think it is a sliding scale, a continuum, if you will, probably doesn't have a sense of protecting the environment. And so that doesn't come into it when they make decisions about their life and what they do. The nature part is not nearly as important as just the ability to swim without a bathing suit. And they're actually happy with a status quo when they're in the textile world. They like fashion, and they like sexuality, and in fact, they might bring that fashion and sexuality within the Naturist Club. They tend to prefer a clothing optional environment, and when they wear clothing, they might do it not just for comfort, but as a status symbol, or because it makes them feel better about themselves, because they feel sexier with the clothing. And so for them, clothing optional is better because they get, in their minds, the best of both worlds. And for them, many of them do call themselves nudists because they might see naturism as more of a euphemism for nudism. Or they might use naturist because it's less upsetting to the people in the outside world. And they don't want to say the word nude because with the word nude comes emotional baggage. And the real eureka moment for this, to me, came when I started Ðariusz, and I had people telling me that having nude staff behind the counter for registration was unprofessional. And I thought, well, how could it be unprofessional? We're all naturists. Why, if this is normal and we're that comfortable with our bodies, then why would anybody think it's unprofessional to be nude? They would expect to be nude. In the show that I did in July 2009 on why clothing optional doesn't work, that was episode number 8, I talk about how I had this discussion with non-naturists and what they would expect. And of course, when I asked them, what would you expect staff in a naturist park or resort club to be wearing, they said nothing. I mean, they were almost stunned by the question. And as experienced naturists, we know that most of the time that's not true. It's the opposite. But I thought it doesn't make any sense. But as I discussed it with naturists, I recognized that there was those who thought it was right to have nude staff, and it made a lot of sense, and those who thought it was unprofessional. And I think that's when I came to recognize that the recreational naturist sees nudity more like a bathing suit, or obviously a lack thereof. And if you think about it, if you went to any resort in the Caribbean where you might be by the pool in a bathing suit, you would not expect the front desk staff to be greeting you in a bathing suit. That would seem unprofessional. So because the recreational naturist sees nudity as an alternative to a bathing suit, therefore a casual type of accoutrement, clothing, dress, even though it's lack thereof, they see it as unprofessional behind the front counter. Now, the recreational naturist versus the ethical naturist, as I said a little earlier, is a continuum. It's not black or white. It's which extreme of the scale you tend to be on. And that's true for certain clubs and the culture within the club, and that's true for individuals. The question to you, my dear listener, is whether you're an ethical naturist, is whether you see it as just something you do as a recreational activity, or whether it is something that you see more as a life philosophy, as a creed, as a way that you judge everything in the world, and as a way that you decide how you're going to live your life, whether you're clothed or not. Do you see it as a philosophy with physical, psychological, environmental, social, and moral benefits? I believe, and I think naturism believes, that it is immoral to make people ashamed and embarrassed of their own bodies. That kind of attitude leads to all kinds of dysfunctionality, all kinds of emotional issues. It creates a lack of self-esteem. That leads to low self-confidence, and all those things can really harm us emotionally and psychologically. So I think that naturism is about trying to right a wrong in our society, because it is immoral and unethical for the world to be telling people that their body is ugly, that they're not good enough, that they don't look good enough, and that who they are and their identity, particularly with women, is all about their physicality and not about the soul and the person that they are. It all can lead to depression and anxiety even. I mean, it can really create emotional disorders, and you don't have to do a lot of reading to see that low self-esteem and lack of self-confidence creates all kinds of issues. In fact, if you want to hear more about that, listen to episode number 14 of the show on Gymnophobia from December 2009. So I think that if you're going to be an ethical naturist, you are still doing it mostly recreationally. Because the reality is you, unlike me, don't have a job where you can work nude. And so it will happen mostly in recreational and leisure time. But do you take it outside of your club or beach? Do you take it home? There's really no reason to be dressed at home all the time. Yet I know lots of naturists who are obviously more recreational naturists who are always wearing clothes in their house. Even when other naturists come over, they all wear clothes in the house. And, I know it can be very awkward because we are so socialized by what's right and wrong, and it feels awkward outside of the club. But as a naturist with a creed, we have to question these things, and we have to push the envelope a little bit. We need to incorporate the values of naturism into our everyday life, whether clothed or not. And so, yes, you can be naturist and you can be clothed. I still think, obviously, that the nudity is really important because it's the therapy that gets us to the point where we can really feel the values of naturism, the respect for self, the respect for the other, and we can feel so much closer to nature. This show is also about a naturist pioneer, and his name is Cec Cinder. Dr. Cecil Cinder, or also known as Dr. Cecil Snyder, is a college professor from California, and he was born in 1927. So that means this year that I'm doing the show, 2011, he's 84 years old. He's been a member of Dell Nudist Ranch since 1956. And interestingly, if you heard the last show about the movie coming up called Act Naturally, most of that was filmed at Dell. He's the oldest member there. There's only 12 members that were part of the club when he joined. And actually 8, he says, were in arrears with their dues at the time. So it was a very small club when he first joined it in 1956. And it was very primitive. Naturists put up with a lot less back then. Well, society in general put up with a lot less back then. Camping was just a tent. You didn't expect 50 or 100 amp hydro and water and sewage. You didn't come in with your big RV. A tent was more than enough, and people were just happy to have a place where they could be nude and comfortable with themselves and go out there. So he helped start the free beach movement in the 70s. He was quite the activist. And he maintains the archive of the Institute for Nudist Studies, which he says is the third largest collection of nudist material in the world. And includes books, periodicals, photos, audio cassettes, films, badges, brochures, and all kinds of other memorabilia. He was elected Western Sunbathing Association's Man of the Year 3 times. In 1986, and he shared that with Hap Hadaway. It was a tie. And in 1989 and 2002. He was also elected to the ANR, American Association for Nude Recreation, Hall of Fame in 2003. He's held many, many other leadership positions in the nudist movement, too many to mention here. He's also a prolific writer. He's helped edit 4 magazines, older magazines, called Utopia, Arcadia, Sol, and Nude History. He's also the publisher of the Ultraviolet Press. And that's how I first learned about him, because I was very interested to hear that somebody had finally translated Richard Ungerwitter's Die Nacktheit, which was the German book from the beginning of the 20th century. I don't remember the exact year. That really was one of the 2 books that started the naturist movement. It was the foundation for the philosophy. And he had it translated and published in 2005 through his company called the Ultraviolet Press. He also wrote and published a very big book, 702 pages, called The Nudist Idea in 1998. And it looks at modern nudism and where it came from. You can get both books, by the way, at the Bear Boutique. And I'll put links to both books in the show notes at naturistliving.bearoaks.ca. But right now, let's listen to my discussion with Cec Cinder. Thank you, Cec, for taking the time to talk to me tonight. I really appreciate it.
The pleasure's all mine.
You've, from the little I've read, and I have some of your books, you're quite an expert in naturism. You spent a lot of time studying and collecting information.
Yeah, it's one of my passions, and being an old guy, I've been at it for many years, so I guess I know a little bit about the movement. I got into naturism in 1954, at which time I was 27 years old. However, one night in New York City, I walked past a magazine vendor and I noticed a naturist or nudist magazine hanging there among his display. And I thought, well, should I stop and buy this? And I was a little bit shy about that, but I was interested. So meanwhile, I'd walked on about 10 or 20 feet, I guess, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to turn back and go back and get that magazine. Just then, a rainstorm came up, and I headed for the nearest subway entrance. I never did get back, never did get that magazine, and that was a damn shame because subsequently I went to Germany, and I, could have been in the thick of things at the age of 18 or 19. As it turned out, I was 27 before I managed to find another magazine, the old Sunshine and Health, and got into it. So I've been in the movement since I was 27 years old, and I'm now 83, so you can do the arithmetic there.
So what was naturism for you in the beginning? Was it a beach? Was it a club?
At first, it was mostly reading the literature and so forth. But when I came out to California in 1956, I joined the old Oakdale, which is no longer goes by that name. And then I think that was in the springtime or summer, and I think that that fall we discovered Dell, which is up Ritchie Canyon. I don't know how familiar you are with Southern California, but Dell's probably 10 or 15 miles away from Oakdale, the old Oakdale, and it's a little closer to where we were living. So we joined Dell in 1956 in the fall, and we've been there ever since. We're the oldest members, obviously, of Dell, and we've seen owners come and go, and we very much like the present owners, who is the son of a former owner who was my age and a friend of mine, Ralph Kilborn. His son now runs the club, and he's recently married, and we've known his wife for a long time. So we like the management, we like the club, and it's not too far from our home. So that's where we hold forth generally. And I do manage to get up at noon on Saturday so I can get over to Dell by 2 p.m. and get some sunshine.
You have a tremendous collection, from what I've heard, of naturist materials going back decades. Is that right?
I do. I have probably the third largest collection in the world, and in fact, it got so large that it just pushed me right out of my office, which is a former bedroom in my home. And so I invested $10,000 in a structure out back, which houses the collection, which I would estimate is probably worth, I don't know, $60,000-$70,000, something like that. But I don't plan on being around more than another 10 or 15 years, even if I'm lucky at my age. So what I've done is I put into my will the collection will go to the library, Western Nudist Research Library down at Glen Eden. And they are in a trailer now, but they've got a building fund going, and I hope that eventually they'll get a building down there, much like the one in Florida at Kissimmee. And at my expiration, my entire collection will go down there, and I think immensely strengthen theirs. So that ought to be one of the finest nudist libraries in the world in another 20 years, or we shall see.
Well, obviously you can't describe exactly what you have, but in general terms, what's in your collection?
Well, it's divided into hardback and magazines for the most part, although I have other little peripheral things, medallions and that sort of junk. But the number of hardback books, I haven't looked lately, but it's probably approaches 100. And the magazine collection, let me interject that nobody has everything. There's more nudist material out there than most people realize. And there's no place, either in Germany or in Florida, that's got everything, and I certainly don't have everything. But I have a pretty good run of magazines, starting with the earliest American one, and I've got magazines from places like Brazil and Australia and New Zealand, and of course a lot of the European stuff. It's a pretty thorough collection, and I think nudists can look forward to the day when the Western Library gets a building down at Glen Eden, and my collection goes in there together with, they've been very busy down there collecting stuff too, and that's going to be a marvelous collection when it all comes together.
That sounds really interesting. And did you do it just for interest?
Yeah, I started accumulating, and it just kept growing, and so I said, you better get this organized. And it is fairly organized out in the annex, as I call the building.
You have an academic background as well, right?
I do, yeah. I have, 4 degrees. I have a bachelor's and 2 masters and a PhD.
And so was part of your collecting and your research because of your academic background?
Well, I don't know that there's any direct tie in there. My degrees are in English literature and American literature, and whether that ties in or not, I don't know.
Well, is that perhaps what motivated you to write the books you did?
Well, yeah, I like to write, and of course, there's a lot of it that you have to do if you're going to pursue higher academic degrees, and so it comes naturally to me, and I started writing for the Nudist Press about 1957, I believe, was my first publication there. So I just took off from there, and I've done a lot of writing for the Nudist Press.
Yeah, you did the first translation ever of the German book that really started the naturist movement.
Yeah, Richard Ungewitter wrote this book, which he called Die Nacktheit, which means nakedness in German, and for reasons which I could never quite figure out, it was never translated into English. And since it's our, you might say, founding document, I felt that it should be translated. And so I made a stab at it myself. My German is not so great, and I soon realized that I was out of my depth. So I contacted and hired a wonderful lady who is completely bilingual, and although she's from Southern California, she lives in Germany, and she did a wonderful translation. And so I got the thing ready for publication, and I started to write an introduction. And when I got into the introduction, I began to realize that there was a lot about the Germany of the late 19th century, which was the author Richard Ungewitter's time, that I didn't know. And the more I looked into it, the more I became convinced that the background, Ungewitter's background, the ambiance, ought to be part of the book. So I greatly extended my introduction, and it got to the point where it was damn near as large as the book itself. I never counted the words in either. So I did the introduction, and that led me into the Germany, the mindset in Germany in the 19th century, which of course led me into the anti-Jewish stuff and the relationship of German nudism in the late 19th century to the oncoming Nazism of the 20th century. And I got kind of fascinated with the whole business. And in short, that's why the introduction is so long, and that's why the introduction has to do with some things that people might not consider basic nudism. But I thought that it was all part of one mindset, and so that's why it appears.
Yes, actually, I've read that book, and it's a very interesting introduction. I'm curious though, has anybody translated Heinrich Puder's book as well? That was published around the same time as well.
Yes. Now, I should add that when I say that Ungewitter's book was the first, Puder's book actually preceded it by a few years. However, if you're familiar with Puder's book, it is not strictly the kind of nudist book that Ungewitter's is, either in scope or size. And Puder, of course, became an enemy of Ungewitter's because he longed for that primacy. And I'll acknowledge that, yeah, he may have technically been the first. If you want to call his book, or the first half of it, probably I should say, the first nudist book, you can go ahead and do so, but I don't regard it as anything as good as Ungewitter's as far as that category goes.
Well, I've never read that one because, as far as I know, it doesn't exist in English. Do you know if it does?
Yes, it does, and it wouldn't take you long to read it. The book, Puder's book, I think was published by an Englishman, and I of course have a copy here. Where you can get it now, I'll tell you what. If you send me an email and remind me, I'll see if I can put you onto it if you'd like to read it. But there is an English translation, yes.
Okay, all right, interesting. So, other than obviously collecting all this material and being in naturism for a long time, you must have also, especially being in California, run into a lot of other well-known naturists over the years.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I probably know every nudist leader in the West Coast, and probably many of them on the East Coast and in Europe and India. This is inevitable. There aren't that many of us, are there? We're going to bump into each other at conventions and so forth.
So who impressed you most over the years?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd have to think a while on that one. We've had a lot of people who made quite a difference. I think Lee Baxendall, who unfortunately died before his time, he and I were good friends, and particularly towards the end, where we would get down, my wife and I would get down to see him and his wife at Palm Springs, which is only about an hour's drive. I'm very impressed with Lee's efforts for the movement as a whole, and I think his death was a setback to the movement, but we've all got to go sooner or later, I suppose. So to answer your question, I think Lee would stand out there.
How have you seen nudism and naturism change over the years, over the last several decades?
Boy, that's a good question and a broad one. I don't know whether I've got a ready answer for that. We've grown in size. I don't think there's too much question about that, is there?
Mm-hmm.
When things started in this country, 1929, there were, you could count the nudists on the fingers of both hands. And I don't know what the latest figure is, but it's a hell of a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're continuing to grow. And then you've got, it gets down to the definition of quote-unquote nudist. We've got these backyard people, the hot tub bunch, the occasional nudists, people who get down to the Caribbean and be nudists for 2 weeks a year. Others who are really into it, and where does the definition end? That's one of the problems in making a count. But there's no question in my mind that we're growing and will continue to grow.
Mm-hmm. Are we going in the right direction?
I think we are, yeah. I think with growth, we're going to simply continue to increase, and our influence will increase, and the world will be a little bit more saner place.
When you started in naturism, it was far more strict in terms of the health benefits and how the philosophy behind it. Don't you feel it's been watered down a little bit as a movement?
Well, it was more strict, as you say, no question about that. Excuse me. And not only here, but in Germany, some of the clubs over there in the beginning had page after page of behavioral rules, which, if you read them today, are just simply silly. And then you had the Purity bunch in France who no cigarettes, no booze, that sort of thing. And fine, I have no problem with that. If people want to go off by themselves, not smoke or drink, and I don't do either, that's okay with me. But to try to lay that onto the whole movement just is not a happy factor.
No, it's true, and that would certainly keep a lot of people out these days.
We need all types in this movement. We're not strong in the big picture, and we need all the help we can get, put it that way.
Well, on that topic, there isn't a nudist or naturist organization today in the world, I think, that is not struggling because, with the availability of information on the internet, the purpose behind a lot of associations to individuals seems to be disappearing.
Yeah, the INF, as far as I can see, are having problems. I don't know how up you are on that, but they just don't seem to be as vigorous as they used to be, and particularly in terms of publications.
Yeah, well, I was a delegate to 3 of the congresses, the Canadian delegate, and so I'm pretty familiar. And the problem is one that affects all clubs. All associations are affected by this, which is that you no longer need to be a member of anything to practice nudism or naturism.
Yeah.
And as a result, in a way, a lot of these organizations existed, especially in Europe, because they had a de facto tax on practicing naturism, which is no longer in existence. So they've lost a lot of their revenue, and of course, everybody needs money to exist.
Right. Yeah, I've been to a couple of the INF meetings, so yeah, I've seen the organization up close, and I don't know. I suppose maybe they're going downhill is inevitable. I don't know that much about the European scene, but I do get the idea that they're not quite as strong as they used to be.
But even ANR and TNS, the Nature Society, are having financial problems, really. They're shrinking.
Yes, I think so. I think ANR hit about 50,000, over 50,000 at one time. And I don't know what their current membership is. I've been trying to get these figures, but I would guess they're down around 40,000 now. And that's just a guess. I could be wrong.
So without these associations, does that matter to naturism, do you think?
I think the associations matter, yes. I think just in terms of their publications, they kind of serve as a binding glue. And I'd certainly hate to see either ANR or the Naturists go belly up. I think that would be a bad thing in this country.
So do you have any ideas of what they could do to make themselves relevant again to the community?
I think the people who are in charge in both organizations are aware of the problem and are doing their best. And we've got a lot of bright people in both organizations and hard workers, and I think they'll prevail. But you got to work at it.
Mm-hmm. Do you see young people getting involved where you are in Southern California?
No, I don't. I'll be honest with you on that. This is something that rather distresses me. And I don't blame it on the movement. I believe it on the young people and their mindset. And I hope that in time that's going to reverse itself. If you go to the average nudist club in the United States, you're going to find a kind of a gap from about 20 to 40 or 45. Not that there aren't some young people there, but they're not there in the ratio that that they ought to be according to the general populace. I think you agree with me on that.
Yeah, although we've actually succeeded a fair bit at Bare Oaks in the last couple of years in getting a lot of young people. Now, it depends on how you define young.
Yeah, right.
I would say some people from their mid-20s into their mid-30s is what I'm looking for. I think, below 25, if you haven't grown up in the naturism or nudism, you're too busy starting your life. And you don't have enough disposable income either, and you're starting a career. You may be out on your own for the first time trying to pay your bills, and you probably have some new relationships. So those things kind of take precedence probably.
That could be part of it. And as I say, I was 27 when I came into the movement, so I can't talk very authoritarian-wise on anything younger than that. But even teens seem to be missing unless they're showing up with their parents. There aren't a hell of a lot of people older than say 12 or 13 that I see in the clubs that I attend, and that's too bad. And I know that people are aware of it, and the nudist leaders are aware of it, or have launched various ways of trying to get more of them in, putting ads in university bulletin boards, that sort of thing, holding courses for university students or college students. But I have to say, I don't think it's working too well, and I don't know what the answer is.
I don't know either. I can tell you that the young people that have come, we have teens, but the teens tend to all be the kids of the parents that are there. But having said that, I can't see a lot of 16 or 17-year-olds ever, on their own deciding to join naturism or nudism if their parents weren't doing it.
Now, this is one reason why I've been so interested in the beach scene, because if you had, let's say, a free beach at Venice Beach, which is Los Angeles City's beach, I think you'd get a lot of young people turning out there. But unfortunately, if they turn out now nude, they're going to be busted. So that's why we're working at that aspect of things.
Well, we have a nude beach right downtown Toronto, and it's officially designated by the city as a nude beach. And it does not get a lot of young adults. It has young adults, like people, again, in their 20s and 30s. But unfortunately, the women that I've talked to that go, it's very intimidating because it's, you always have predominance of men.
Yeah.
And there's always a small number, but it doesn't take a lot of sort of creepy individuals to make the women uncomfortable. And
absolutely, yes. And this is something you don't find in the clubs, because the clubs are aware of the problem and they do something about it. And I think a well-run beach, probably the sensible nudists will prevail there and get rid of these kinds of individuals. Mm-hmm. I think this is what has happened down to one of the few free beaches left here in Southern California, down at San Onofre, and I don't know whether you're familiar with the situation down there or not, but police are trying to close down the beach.
Yeah, I've read a little bit about it. Yeah,
they've almost succeeded, and that's what they claim, that there's sexual activity going on down there. Well, it's not going on when the nudists are around, because they'll put a stop to it if they see it. So I think a lot of it's fictional, and this is something that's in the courts right now, and we're gonna see the outcome of it in the next year or so. But it can be a problem if there aren't enough nudists around to control it. I can see that. But where they are, at least down there on that beach, they don't get away with it. So how it is on your beach, I don't know.
Well, it's there's individuals who try to control the beach, but because it's public, it's very difficult. And some of the people that took a real offense to it have complained, actually, and about the fact that you can't actually throw anyone off the beach just for being creepy. It's not illegal to look at people and even stare at them, unfortunately.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's you put your finger on the problem, all right.
And it only takes one of those people to really make a first experience for a woman in particular very negative.
Yeah. I've seen this. I've seen clothed people, young men, line up above a nude beach and just sit there and stare.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you can do something about it or not, it depends on the beach situation, depends on the police, and so forth. But yeah, it's a problem just saying go away.
Yeah.
Ordering them off, you may not have the right to do that, but that's one of the problems, and something has to be faced up to.
Now, I was actually totally a big change of topic here, but you're a member of Olive Dell, and you have been for a long time. And I was just reading about a movie that was shot there called Act Naturally. Do you know about that?
Yes, I do. I unfortunately wasn't there much of the time while they were making the picture, and I haven't seen it subsequently, or I'm not even sure whether it's completed and out now. But yeah, I am aware that that they were there, and the owners were cooperating with them.
I've just seen the preview. The movie is apparently not out yet. It's an indie movie, and I think they're having some financial limitations, but they seem to be moving slowly towards a completion date.
Yeah, movies cost money, unfortunately, and that's probably their problem.
Yeah.
I think they're done with the shooting there. I don't know.
Does your collection, your library, include movies as well?
Well, let me think a minute now. If I had nudist movies, what form would they be on? Good question. My mind's going blank here. I may have some old real stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'm not really certain. If I do have, it's nothing stellar, nothing I'd want to brag about.
Mm-hmm. And at this point, I assume your library is not open to the public. It's your private collection.
It is open to a genuine nudist scholar who is interested in seeing it. Yeah. If he makes an appointment, I'd be glad to show him what I have. But on the other hand, just somebody coming to gawk, I'm a busy person, and I really would not be too happy about that. I would want to know what information they're looking for and why they need to get to the library to get that information and so forth. I don't want to turn away any genuine scholars from any information that I have, but I'm sure you can understand that I don't want to be pestered by gawkers who just want to look through things.
And have you had many people use your library?
No, I haven't actually. Maybe one or two at the most. I don't recall.
Well, I think not everybody's aware of the existence of it. I was very impressed with your book, The Nudist Idea, as well, and we've sold a couple, by the way, in the store.
Oh, good.
It's not the biggest mover, but on the other hand, I think I think most naturists or nudists are not really into the intellectual side of the philosophy. They enjoy it, and that's good enough for them.
Yeah, amen. Yeah,
exactly. But there are some. We have a naturist festival once a year, and at that festival, actually, that's when we sold 2 copies last year at the festival. Because people were interested in what we keep. We're trying to keep in the bookstore only real naturist material, right? Real nudist stuff, real stuff that supports it.
Well, along those lines. By the way, I just this afternoon took a look at your listing, and you don't have Naked Fear on there. Dennis Craig Smith's book, I believe. Are you aware of the publication?
No, I'm not.
Well, that's the Ultraviolet Press's 3rd book. The first one is my big book, The Nudist Idea. The second one is the Ungewitter translation, Die Nacktheit, or Nakedness. And Dennis Craig Smith, his book Naked Fear has just come out, and that's, I was looking for it on there, and you probably should be aware of it, and you probably would want to handle it.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to buy a few copies, actually, put some in the store. I think that was a good chat. I think that's going to make an interesting episode, so thank you for your time.
Yes, my pleasure.
Well, that's it for episode number 30 of the Naturist Living Show. Thank you once again for listening. My name is Stéphane Deschênes, and I was your host for this episode, and I'm the owner of Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. You can find links to all the items that I mentioned in this show in the show notes on the website at naturistliving.bareoaks, B-A-R-E, bareoaks.ca for Canada. So please keep sending in comments and suggestions. I always enjoy reading them. The show's email address is naturistliving@bareoaks.ca. Join us again in about a month for the next episode of the Naturist Living Show.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show was brought to you by Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. Traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Traditional values means that naturism is more than just taking your clothes off. It is a life philosophy with physical, psychological, environmental, social, and moral benefits. Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park strives to promote those naturist values in a modern setting that provides the amenities and services that our members and visitors expect. Free your body, free your mind. Learn more at www.bareoaks.ca.